They were getting worse. They were progressively getting worse. Or I would not progressively, I would say quickly getting worse. I had other symptoms I had was shortness of breath, palpitations, of course, brain fog. I would get swollen lymph nodes, swelling and numbness in the arms and hands. My whole personality changed. I became a very angry person. I would say the whole year 21 to 22 was probably rock bottom for me. So all I did that year was watch all the videos. That's all I could do. I'm actually doing a strength training plan, and I'm not lifting very heavy, but I'm lifting up to 10 pounds. And this is every day. I'm sleeping through the night. Like, I'll just put my head down. 5 minutes later, I'm asleep. Next thing you know, it's morning and I'm ready to go. It's just amazing to me. Amazing. And one of the biggest things that I did recently, I just came back from a trip and I did stand-up paddleboarding in the ocean, and that was amazing.
How's it going, guys? Miguel here with CFS Recovery. In this video, we have Jeanette, who's been crushing it. She's back to living her life, reach and thrive in health, exercising again, working, doing all those things. But it wasn't too long ago where she was couch bound and really debilitated and just really trying to figure out all of this stuff that's happening to her body. But now she's coming out of it. And I brought her on here to share her inspiring story with you guys in hopes that you may take some value out of it and be able to apply some of it to your recovery. So Jeanette, it's amazing to have you on here. Want to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Miguel. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeanette. I'm 53 and I'm from North Carolina, originally from Miami, and I am an English Spanish interpreter.
Okay, wow. And let everybody know, what's your age?
53.
53. Okay. And so you got this around your 50s, right? Because you got this back in 2021. Right?
Correct.
How did all of this start? How did all of your symptoms come about? And when did you hit that wall?
Well, it was a stressful year in 2021. We were still in the trenches of shutdown. I had to fill in to take care of my mom. She has some mobility issues. So I just decided, I'll do it. So I started doing that, which was very stressful. Then somewhere in the middle of the year, 2021, I just got hit by a truck. That's what it felt like. I was not the same person until now.
Yeah. So you hit a wall, and I've heard this from a lot of people leading up to that point. Tell us about, just your symptoms. Were you having symptoms leading up to that? Did you always kind of have a hypersensitive nervous system?
Looking back, of course, at the time I did not know, but looking back, I definitely have had a hypersensitive nervous system. Probably since I was a child, I would say. A lot of the typical classic A personality, type A personality, perfectionist, people pleaser, black and white thinking, that type of person. Yeah. And now looking back, I can remember I had some adjustment periods throughout my life, quite a few.
Got it. And what were some of the symptoms? Did you have symptoms leading up to this, like anxiety, insomnia, headaches, things like that?
I had a little bit of insomnia. I would get post-exertional malaise. So my husband and I love to go to the gym. So we were always going to the gym. I was running, but I would notice that sometimes if I pushed it too hard, it wasn't just a regular soreness. It was intense pain. Like I had to take painkillers.
Oh, wow.
And it would last for days. So I always wondered in the back of my head, is this normal? Like, does everybody go through this? And then of course you ask and everybody's like, oh yeah, you get sore after you work out. So I just thought it was that. Now looking back, obviously I know it was that. But after I did get the vaccine, at my worst, I had 35 plus symptoms. The worst one being extreme fatigue. To the point where I fainted. I fainted about 4 times. And I was never a person to faint before.
Yeah, that's wild. So let's talk about that. When you got the vaccine and then a month later it just hits you, right? It's like you hit this wall. What was that like? And how different were things after that? because I know a lot of people that they're somewhat functional, right? They'll feel some symptoms here and there, but then all of a sudden it goes to a whole nother level and it's like they have to pause their life. But what was it like for you?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of difficult because I could not stop doing my caregiving duties. So to say that I completely stopped, I kind of did, but I would have to force myself to do my caregiving duties. I would run over to my mom's house. She lives like about 10 minutes away from me. I would do what I had to do and I would just leave. I mean, and I could barely do that. And then once I did that, I would crash for like 2 or 3 days and then have to do it all over again. And this is something that I was supposed to be doing on a daily basis, but there's just no way. There's no way I could have done that on a daily basis. So
Hmm.
the rest of the time I was just on the couch. If I could get up from bed. Once I got out of bed, I would go straight to the couch. That's all I can do. And I remember thinking that even laying on the couch was not comfortable, if that makes sense. It was uncomfortable even laying there resting on the couch. So yeah.
I totally know that feeling. It's like you're doing anything you can to get comfortable. You're rolling over, you're trying to get into a position that is somewhat relaxing, but it's like I would feel okay for about 10 seconds, but then after 10 seconds, like all the symptoms just kind of start melting into me. And I just I had to keep readjusting, So when that happened, what was it like for the next, handful of months after that? Were things getting worse or they kind of just stay the same?
They were getting worse. They were progressively getting worse, or I would not progressively, I would say quickly getting worse. I had other symptoms I had was shortness of breath, palpitations. I can't really say I had POTS because, or maybe it is, I'm not really sure because it wasn't from sitting to standing. It was just rolling over in bed
Oh yeah.
yeah, would send my heart racing. Of course, brain fog. Sometimes I couldn't find the word. What's that word? Okay, yeah, ball. Or there was no way I could have an intelligible conversation. Weird symptoms I got too, which I wrote them down because someone might benefit from this.
Mhm.
I got bradycardia, which is slow heart rate. So it went, and I have Apple devices, and it would warn me. It would go into the 30s, and that, oh my gosh, that scared me so bad. I would get swollen lymph nodes, swelling and numbness in the arms and hands. And one thing that really affected me a lot was my whole personality changed. I became a very angry person, and I'm not an angry person. I'm a very happy person. Try to get along with everyone as best as possible. And I just turned into this very, very angry person, which I didn't like. It was almost like I was outside of myself, watching myself turning into this person that I didn't recognize.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember that too. It's like I was very snappy, very short and impatient, just easily frustrated. And I think it had to do with me dealing with all these symptoms, trying to keep it all to myself and shovel it down. So if ever there was even the slightest thing that annoyed me, like someone closing a door too fast, that would make me angry. And I
Right.
just snap. I was not pleasant to be around for sure in
Yeah.
those dark times.
Right.
Right. So you have like 35 plus symptoms. When did you hit like rock bottom? Right? Was it 6 months after, a year after?
I would say the whole year 21 to 22 was probably rock bottom for me. And all I could do was, and I had found your videos by then. I found your videos by the fall of 2021. So all I did that year was watch all the videos. That's all I could do. And
Mhm.
of course, Googling, which is, I later learned that wasn't the right thing to do. So I stopped doing that later. But yeah, I would say all of 22 was my worst year.
Got it. And what was going through your mind at that time? Because I'm sure you're trying to look for solutions. You're going to doctors, specialists. They're not really helping you. Actually, maybe let's start there.
Yeah, I
What
had,
was the doctor saying?
first off, I had like 7 or 8. I think I have a list here. I had like 8 specialists, two GPs, a cardiologist, a hematologist, endocrinologist, gastroenterologist, naturopath, neurologist. I did physical therapy, None of it really helped. Oh, I did iron infusions. I did 4 iron infusions. Funny
Wow.
thing about that is I got when I would get those infusions, I would crash miserably after. It was horrible. I think, how could this be? I should be getting better. And no, it wasn't getting better. Yeah.
Mhm. It's a lot on the nervous system.
Yeah.
It's a
What
lot.
was I thinking? You asked what was I thinking? I honestly at my worst, and this sounds pretty bad, but like I didn't want to wake up. I wish there were days that I didn't wake up. And that sounds drastic, but it's the truth. It's the truth. I just did not want to wake up. And then other times when I had no choice and I was there in the couch, I would think, is this my life? Like, I can't accept this. There was something, and I've heard this in other videos too. There was something in me that would not accept this can't be possible. Like, with all these scans, all these specialists, how can they not find what's going on? So I couldn't accept it. I was like, no, there's no way that this
Mhm.
could be. So that's what was going through my head. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're hearing all this stuff from the doctors. They're telling you, hey, we can't find anything, but inside you're telling yourself, yeah, no, there's got to be a way. So what was that feeling? Was it like kind of frustration? Um, did you, I mean, I'm sure it was a blow to some hope and morale, but did it just make you kind of dig even deeper and be like, no, I know I'm going to find a way through this?
There were days where I can honestly say I don't see a way out of this. But I would always go back to there's got to be a solution to this. There's got to be an explanation. So yeah, I would always go back to that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you're going through all of this stuff and nothing seems to be working. You're seeing the doctors, you're trying all these different things. What did you try actually? So you tried the infusions, you tried,
Iron infusions.
yeah, what else?
I did a stress test. It came back normal. Um, I would have these really low blood sugar episodes. So I went to the endocrinologist. Nope, everything's normal. Everything would come back normal. I had a naturopath, so I did all these tinctures, supplements. I
Mhm.
had 2 large bins full of supplements, and they were overflowing. so,
I think I
yeah.
think a lot of people can relate to that, and it's a lot of time and energy that goes into these appointments and figuring out these formulas of supplements, but most of all, it got pricey
Yeah.
because usually that's not covered, that's like private
Mhm.
health
Yep.
and all the special tests you're doing, all the special supplements, the IV treatments that I was doing, it was crazy. But at that time, I didn't really have any other option. The doctors were off the table, so I was like, let me try this. And then when that didn't work, it was a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. I'm still
I,
paying those bills.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, threw everything at it.
Mhm.
So you found CFS recovery earlier on in recovery. That was in like 2021, right?
Mhm. In the fall. Yeah.
Yeah. When did you decide like, okay, I got to give this thing a shot. I need I need help.
Yeah. It took me a while. I found you through Raylan. Yeah, one of her videos. And like I said, in 2022, all that year, all the energy I had was to just watch videos and do nothing else. But I found it a little bit out of my reach at the time financially, especially with all the bills and everything. So finally, I think it was in January of 20 January. Yeah, January of this year, actually, of 2024, when you introduced the trial week for Academy. I said, this is my chance. Like, I have to jump on this. So yeah, my husband was like, yeah, go for it. So that's when I jumped on board on the Academy.
Yeah. And prior to that, what was your capacity like? Like what level were you at in your health? Had you made some progress prior to that?
I had made some progress in 2023, quite a bit. I would say I was semi-functional. We have a small business, my husband and I, so I would fill in and help him out. You know, it's just the two of us. So I would go to some appointments, work appointments. Um, so I would say I was semi-functional, but I would say I was stuck in my progress. Like I couldn't move past a certain progress. So I think that's what had me a little frustrated. Like, okay, is this it? Like, is this? And again, the mind starts going. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe this is as good as it gets. Uh, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So you were in a bit of a plateau.
Yeah. Yeah. I had already started exercising a little bit. But again, I would get post exertional malaise.
Mhm.
So that was, I would have to back off a little bit and then start again. And it was just not working. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So you come in January, right?
Mhm.
Into the academy. So
Mhm.
really, we started. I think would have been Feb 1st.
Yeah, exactly. It
31st
was
was the
the
event.
end of January. Mhm.
So that was only just 3.5 months ago. Wasn't too long ago,
Yep.
right?
I have a picture. I was in the ER in January.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Wow. Because of a flare up or just
Yeah, it was a gastro flare up. Really, really bad one. Yeah.
oh
And I had
wow.
a CT scan and everything, and I'm still paying for that too.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
I know in America, if not everything is covered, like one emergency visit, it's like thousands and thousands of dollars, which is
Yep.
insane.
Yes.
So, what was that first month like in the academy? You come on board, you start coming to the group calls, all of that. How was that?
Oh, that was fabulous. And I'm the type of person that I'm all in. Like at that point I was all in. So I think I didn't even miss one call. It was like every call I was like, okay, I'm on this. But it was so refreshing, you know, the community, everybody just understands you on such a different level than a best friend would. You know, it's you don't even have to say anything. You just understand. You understand without saying anything. So that was fantastic. The just the information too, the science behind it, the logic, that was fabulous. The coaches, that was fantastic. Like any little thing that you might have a doubt on, they were right there. No, that's just your nervous system. They just politely remind you because sometimes we ask the same questions over and over again, because we just can't believe it's so simple. It's not easy. It's hard, but it's simple in the concept, and I love that part of it.
Exactly. And exactly what you said there, it's so true. It's not easy to do. It actually takes a lot of hard work. It takes um, a lot of energy, but not in the way people think. It's not like you try doing this stuff and it's gonna make you crash. No, it requires effort for sure, but the solution is actually very simple. So for you, you've had a lot of mind shifts in the last 3.5 months. What were some of the most helpful things for you in recovery? And I know there's so many, it's probably a whole list, but for people watching this right now and they're looking at you and they're like, how did she make that progress? How's
Mhm.
she's getting ready for a 5 kilometer run? What the heck? She was in the ER in January.
Mhm.
What are some big golden nuggets you can share with people that really helped you on your journey?
I wrote a few here. I think one of the biggest ones is belief in recovery is more important than doing it perfectly. And I think would fall into that. Oh, I have to do it perfectly, whether it's the brain retraining for pain or whatever, you know, swatting away negative thoughts. I thought I had to do everything perfectly. And what I found was you could even modify it to how you learn it the best way, and it will work. You just have to be consistent. And
Mhm.
that's what I found before. I thought when I would hear recovery videos, I like, oh yeah, I'm going to become a better person or a 2.0, and I'm thinking to myself, If I go back to the way I was thinking, I have to go back to how I was. No, you don't go back to how you were. You go back to a better person. And that's so true. That is so true. And that's why the 2.0 version, like we always say, it means so much more than what you think at face value. It's way more than what you might think just seeing a video.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So,
Absolutely.
mhm.
Yeah. Any other kind of frameworks that really helped you?
I think for me, the main things, and I wrote these down. I wrote this down too, so I couldn't forget. Um, Doing the work with the brain retraining for pain. I think that's so important. You have to really focus on that. And in my case, which I had pain, but that wasn't my main symptoms. For me, it was more fatigue. But even applying the brain retraining to fatigue, and I actually did that, would work for me. So that was amazing. Also, swatting away the negative thoughts. And early on, when we start with the program, you have to. I remember you would say you have to do it hundreds of times. If you don't do it hundreds of times, it's not going to work. I'm like, what? Like that? No. But yes, it's very true. It's very true. And one day I sat down and I counted it, and the day wasn't over, and it was about 80 times already. So I
Mhm.
was I was blown away by that. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, we have to do this. We have to do this. And also, a really big one was staying neutral in my thoughts, or in other words, the gray thinking. That was huge for me. That was so important, staying neutral, because I'm a very emotional person. So any little thing was like, and or this or that, or too excited too. I had to learn that also.
Yeah.
So keeping my emotions neutral and in the gray zone, that was that was key for me, definitely.
Yeah. That's one of the major pillars of a lot of what we teach essentially, because that's what responding well to symptoms is. It's staying as neutral as possible. But of course, you'll feel emotions, you'll feel excited, you'll feel scared sometimes,
Mhm.
doubtful, but it's bringing it back to that neutral level so you don't get stuck in that emotion, because those emotions are what cause people to spiral
Yes.
essentially.
Mhm.
So when you can recognize when you're being very polarized or having strong emotions or extreme thinking towards things, you're able to catch it. And like you said, with the brain retraining, I think one time I tried to count and I got to around 50 and it was maybe 11 a.m. And I was like, okay, I've swatted away many times. I can't count this all day. So I'm just going to assume I'm doing this a couple hundred times a day at least. And when people hear that, I know a lot of people are like, wait, hundreds of times a day? That's so much work. I'm going to be sitting there all day, just sitting there staring at a wall swatting. But swatting can take 1 second sometimes,
Mhm.
3 seconds or 2 seconds. It's
Yes.
basically you feel a worry come in or you notice a worry or a doubt come in and you say, nah, it's just a nervous system. Boom, done. That counts as one. So
Right.
you have to do it over and over and over again to the point where it becomes automatic for your brain.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
And at this point, I felt so bad already. I said, I'll do whatever it takes. I was at that point. So, and it was to my benefit that I did it.
Yeah. And it worked. And you put in the work. And that's the thing. You came in prepared to do the work.
Mhm.
And you came to every call. I remember I'm not on all of the calls, but the coaches were always like, yeah, Jeanette is crushing it. She's on every call. You see these wins because we always look at the wins on our internal meetings and they're like, and Jeanette is crushing it with a handful of other people. There were a lot of people who joined in January
Mhm.
from that event. I just actually finished chatting with Nicole, and she
Oh,
came in around
yeah.
the same time. And it's cool to see you guys getting better together and just applying the principles.
Yep.
It's so cool to see. So, for you, how impactful was it being on calls with other people in a similar situation as you? Because I know you really, really took advantage of that tool of the calls. What was it
Oh,
like
yeah.
being on
That
that?
was that was that was key in my recovery. Um, because there's only so much you can say or explain to a friend, even a compassionate friend. They're not going to understand it unless they've been through it. There's just no way. And that's no shade on anyone. It's just that they just can't understand. It's almost like they're not in our shoes, so they can't really understand. And I understand that too, that they're not going to understand it. But when you get on the call and everybody knows what you mean, or they just see the look on your face and they can tell, okay, she's in an AP or he's in an AP or adjustment period. You just know. So that it helps you feel included. It was a very isolating time for me because not only was this going on, but it was also shut down because of the pandemic. So it was like double.
Mm.
So yes, so the sense of community is it was key for me in recovery.
Yeah, it almost feels like, we become very isolated when we're going through this. And there could be people physically around us telling us, hey, it's going to be okay, you're going to make it. But it just doesn't, that those words don't really hit as deep when you know that they don't understand your symptoms.
Mhm.
Right? Just like you said, that's not their fault. That's not a bad thing on their part. They do care. In
Right.
fact, they're kind of in the trenches with you in a different way because it's also emotional on them. They want to help, but they don't know what to do. Doctors don't know what to do, let alone them. They don't even understand. They're not feeling the symptoms, but they're with you every day, watching you go through this, and they can feel helpless. And for me, it just got to the point where I said, would I want them to even understand what I'm going through? Probably wouldn't, because it hurts so much. I'd rather them not know what this is like. So I'm okay with them not understanding, but
Mhm.
it becomes very, very lonely. So when you do find this group of people or people who understand what you're going through, it makes you feel like you're part of a small team
Yeah.
versus doing this on your own, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So for you, what was one of your biggest wins or biggest milestones when you came in January and started in February 1st? Do you remember one of the biggest breakthroughs you had?
I think one of my biggest early wins in the program was a day that I set out to do some sewing, and my grandmother taught me how to sew. So I always had a problem with cognitive tasks. I had very little physical limitations. I did, but that wasn't my problem. My problem was more cognitive, emotional. So I was at first struggling to find activities that would challenge my cognition. So I was like, let me try some sewing. Even though it's just some alterations, it could be boring alterations, but I did it, and I did it fine. Like I came out of it, and it takes a lot of thinking. I had forgotten, but I had remembered that sewing and alterations and things like that takes a lot of thinking and a lot of figuring out problems. And I did fine. And once I did fine, I was like, I can't believe this. I actually did it. And I posted it. I posted it on school.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking at it right now, March 19th.
Okay, there you
Big
go. Mhm.
cognitive win because it
Mhm.
was a big cognitive activity and there was no AP after.
Right. That's right.
It's
Mhm.
cool when you have that big win. It almost shatters this any kind of limiting belief or fear around certain activities, and it kind of opens up this door. It's like, wow, if I did that, but I was so scared to do that thing, imagine all the other things that I'm scared to do, but I could probably do. And then it's like that stepping stone that leads to other things and really just building confidence too,
Yeah.
right? And building trust with the body.
Yeah.
So for you, you know, what would you say are some of the biggest differences between the Jeanette today and the Jeanette maybe a year ago when you were going through all of this? And there's so many differences. So maybe let's start in the physical bucket. What can you do physically now that you couldn't do
Oh
a year
wow, the physical. I could do so much more. I remember when just bringing in a grocery bag from the car. would wipe me out completely. And not only wipe me out, but the pain in my arms would be excruciating. And that's just a small bag, not even heavy, a small bag from the car into the house. That's it. That would send me over the edge. And I'd probably have a 3 or 4 day AP after that. Now I'm actually doing a plan, a strength training plan. And I'm lifting, not lifting very heavy, but I'm lifting up to 10 pounds. And this is every day. I'm doing this every day. I was training for a 5K, but I stopped that and started doing the strength training. And I'm going to restart the training for the 5K soon. But I'm doing strength training every single day.
That's
And yeah, it's amazing to me. And something I didn't mention earlier, I had really bad insomnia. I'm sleeping through the night. Like, I'll just put my head down. 5 minutes later, I'm asleep. Next thing you know, it's morning and I'm ready to go. It's just amazing to me. Amazing.
I love my sleep now. I used to not like sleeping, actually. I thought it was a waste of time for my first 21 years of my life.
Oh, wow. That's funny you say that because I'm the same.
Right? It's because it's not productive, or it wasn't productive before. It's like, I got to be doing stuff. This is wasting time. I could be working. I could be reading a book.
Yep.
But obviously, that's before we understood that you need rest. And actually, rest will make you more productive when
Yes.
you go do things. So now I love my sleep.
Absolutely. Me too. Me too.
Yeah. So a lot of physical wins, and
Mhm.
you're working again, right? You're working.
Yes, I'm working. It's part-time, but it always was part-time, so I'm back to that. And yeah. And one of the biggest things that I did recently, I just came back from a trip and I did stand-up paddleboarding
Okay.
in the ocean. And that was amazing. That
That
was
is
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So many physical wins. How about the mental and emotional wins? Like, how has Jeanette transformed to her 2.0 version of herself? And you're still building upon it, but what are some differences there?
Another another big win as far as mental capacity is I would notice that, for example, for me, packing for a trip was probably the worst mental activity I could do. I would go into it already knowing this. So I was anticipating, okay, an AP or a crash or whatever back in the day when I didn't know what was going on. So now I don't have that anymore. I go into it fine. I'm not tired. The interesting thing is mental capacity when you have a dysregulated nervous system will, something I didn't know, I found out later, will tire you out physically.
Mhm.
At least that's what would happen to me. So now these past few trips that I've done, a couple trips that I've done, no problem. No problem. I put together my luggage, no issues, go on the trip, come back, no mental brain fog at all. At all.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
And I noticed that too. I actually feel like my mental capacity is way higher than what it used to be. I mean, running CFS recovery, there's a million things I'm doing on a weekly basis, which is actually more than I used to do when I was burning out. But I think now I'm just able to kind of turn down the stimulus on my nervous system and just, I'm able to shut off and I'm able to get into that rest and digest mode, even just mentally. It makes a huge difference. And I can feel my body physically recovering faster
Yep.
because I'm not always redlining my engine and my
Right.
nervous system. So
Right.
it's interesting to feel like I'm doing more now, but I
Right.
have more energy.
Yeah. Definitely. Recently, I had a very, very mild AP, and it only lasted, I think it was 30 to 45 minutes, and
Mhm.
it was gone.
Yeah,
Because I know how to respect my body and say, okay, you're doing too much. You're throwing so many things at it. Let's calm down for a little bit, and then and I recover just fine.
oh yeah,
So,
Yeah. And it's interesting because people ask me, hey, do you still get symptoms? Do you still feel tired? I'm like, oh yeah, I'll definitely feel tired sometimes, but I don't necessarily get symptoms. But I still like to really push myself hard to kind of expand my capacity, but at a whole different level than it was before. So yeah, I'll feel tired, I'll feel drained sometimes, but that's my indicator. Like, all right, this is great. You 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 stretched your capacity, dial it back a little bit, chill out for a few days. And then I've been doing that actually for the past, I don't know, 6 years since I got out of the hospital, and
Mhm.
just been getting stronger, sharper. Just my capacity is way more than it used to be because now I know how to increase my capacity sustainably.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing, is sustainably. For the things you use in recovery, just responding well to stressors and responding well to symptoms, have you found that has also spilled into other areas of your life where you're able to use some of these core principles in those areas?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell my friends, I tell my husband all the time, these principles are good for life. Just, if you're in traffic and, someone cuts you off, well, how are you going to respond to that? That's not necessarily CFS. You're responding to life, or yeah, or any other situation, stress at work. How are you responding to that? And I apply that to everything now.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yes, it definitely is. It's a plus, definitely.
Yeah. Because the only way to get over the symptoms and come out of this illness is to learn to manage your emotions much, much better. It's almost like a pressure cooker when you're going through CFS. All your emotions are amplified. The things that kind of triggered you before, now they really, really, really trigger you. So when you overcome that in the midst of all of this stuff, when you get back into life, it's so much easier to respond well because you responded to almost life and death situations, or at least what you perceived were life and death situations.
Right.
So everything
Absolutely.
else is easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about some of the things that really helped you on recovery. What are some of the biggest mistakes you made? Maybe the top two or three things you would want to share with people just so they don't make the same mistakes that you did.
I would say one of the biggest mistakes I made was listen to I'll just say people. I'm not going to say who. Oh, just rest. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
um, let's just say medical professionals. Just go home and rest. You'll be fine. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay.
Heard that before many
Yeah.
times.
So yeah, that doesn't help. That doesn't help. And I learned recently, even if you're having symptoms, it's okay. It's okay to do a few things here and there because it's not going to help you by just laying there. And I'm not talking about, people that are bedbound that can't get up or things like that. I'm not talking about that. But in my case, I was couch bound and I stayed that way for a very, very long time when I probably could have gotten up, gone to the restroom, gone to the kitchen, prepared something, little things like that. So I stayed too long not doing anything,
Hmm.
which I think also didn't help with my circadian rhythm with my sleeping.
Yeah, it
Because when
totally
you're on
messes
the
with
couch, yeah, you're just dozing off. You can, it's so easy to doze off. So you're messing up your sleep rhythm. That was one thing.
I know for me, Googling my symptoms was probably one of the worst things I did.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I was the Google queen. Yeah, any little symptom, any little change, and of course we get rotating symptoms.
Yep.
So
Yep.
new things pop up. I went, boom, boom, boom. I think that was one of the turning points in when I started recovering so quickly. When I searching, stopped searching. And even my first month in the academy, I still had doctor's appointments. Also, that finishing all my scans and all my blood work and everything that I had to do or I thought I had to do. Um, Also that, like, just turning my back on that when I already knew, okay, this is not a structural problem. This is a hypersensitive nervous system problem.
Yeah.
That also sped up my recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super interesting how that works. Hey, you start recovering when you stop Googling and a few other things, but
Sure.
I've never seen someone feel better after Googling symptoms. I've never seen it work, you know? And it's interesting because our intention is good. It's like, hey, I want to solve this thing. Doctors aren't helping. No one's helping. Let me fix this for myself. But I think it's an honest mistake people do in the beginning, but then it becomes this kind of habit where
Yeah.
you're looking for comfort, you're seeking comfort, but you don't really get it. And it actually ends up being a black hole of information.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even early on, even before I joined the academy, I tried not to go to forums, and I knew not to do that, thankfully, because it was just so negative and so sometimes so ridiculous. The responses and answers you would get there, which weren't even answers.
Yeah.
So early on, early on, I didn't do that. But even doing it the way I was, like reading clinical studies, because I love all that stuff, all the science. I enjoy that, but it wasn't helpful. It wasn't helpful at all. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And something you said about, you know, just resting too much, right? And you can't rest your way out of this. It's so true because there's so many things that just sitting on a couch or not doing things does, not just physically but mentally, right? Circadian rhythm, it messes that up, but even mentally, it's just there is no rhythm in your days. You're
no
just literally
stimulation.
no stimulation. You're
Mhm.
literally surviving. And one of the most difficult things, or the things that keeps people stuck, is their own mindset when they're in the trenches, especially during APs. Especially if you don't really understand what's going on, your mind will start to run in circles, right? And you'll also get deconditioning if you rest for too long. Now, there is a time for rest, right?
Right,
But not resting all the time, expecting that if I just rest long enough, I'll be able to save up enough energy to then level up in my recovery.
right.
Doesn't work like that. You got to
No,
almost like earn these different levels, like
absolutely.
going through
Yeah,
it.
and that's what I thought. I thought by resting, I would, okay, it'll go away and I'll be fine. I'll just rest myself to recovery. And that's couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
As it sounds like that would be the answer. And in most cases, if you didn't have CFS, if you're tired, yeah, definitely go rest, right? But
Mhm.
with this, the fatigue doesn't really go away. It's just less fatigue when you're resting. Then you
Mhm.
get up and try to do something again. Now you have lower capacity,
Right.
right? So definitely the resting thing, definitely the not Googling thing.
Mhm.
What's one more mistake you did that you think if you didn't do this, you probably would have recovered faster?
I think relying on external factors, and what I mean by that is the medical system, or even I had a naturopath. She did her best, but that was not gonna fix me. I had to fix me. I had to take the reins and say, I'm gonna do the work and do this. It was up to me, in other words,
Yeah.
to recover. Hmm.
And I'm definitely guilty of that. You almost outsource this recovery to external factors,
Yeah.
like a medication or some kind of treatment or some kind of, I've seen people come up to me, or not come up to me, online, and say,
Hmm.
"Hey, I think I've tried everything. If I just do this hyperbaric oxygen chamber, I think that's going to fix me. What do you think?" I'm like,
Hmm.
"Oh, it's not just one thing that's going to fix you. I can tell you that for a fact." But they're like, "No, but I've seen great things about this. I heard people recover." I'm like, "You could try it, but it's not the most empowering place to be, thinking that something outside of you is going to fix you."
Yeah.
Now, in most times in life, if you're sick with something, usually, yeah, medication can help, or a supplement or whatever, or treatment. But with something like this, it really does come down to us and our own
Hmm.
brains, because that's where the issue is. And I think once you accept that big responsibility, right? And take things into your own hands. And that's the most empowering place to be.
Mhm.
So not
Yeah.
outsourcing that is so important.
Yeah.
So for people who are going through this right now and they're where you were a year or two ago, and they're in the trenches, they're struggling, and it's hard for them to find hope, but they've stuck around on this call for the last 45 minutes. What are some words of encouragement you want to share with them?
I would say that there is a solution. You have to believe that you can recover, because early on I didn't believe that recovery was possible. And again, wherever you turn, they tell you, "Oh no, yeah, that's something you have to manage. You can go into remission, but there's no solution." So I would say, don't listen to that. Listen to the gut, listen to your gut, and know that there is a solution. There is recovery possible for you. I think that would be the main thing. And don't give up. Definitely don't give up.
Yeah. Yeah. And for people watching this right now, there's a reason you stuck around this long on this call and you're looking for solutions is because you're not willing to settle, just like Jeanette and so many other people you see on this channel and myself. No matter what the doctors told me, I wasn't going to give up and I wasn't going to accept this as the rest of my life. I don't care what I read on Google. I don't care what statistics they had out there. I'm like, that's not me. It's just not my life path. It's not my destiny to stay sick like this forever and get a little bit better and get by and be in remission. No, I want to go out there and travel the world and get fit again and just get the most out of life. And whatever it takes to get there, I'll do that. Or I'll go down, I'll die trying to get there.
Right.
I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure there's a part of you watching this right now and you're thinking the same thing. That's why you're here looking for solutions. But there is a solution. And there are people out there who have been in your shoes, if not worse, and recovered, right? Jeanette is living proof of one of those people. So, Jeanette, what would you say to somebody who's on the fence of, wanting to try something like the academy or even wanting to try brain retraining and they think it's some just fancy magic thing and they're a bit afraid to try one more thing because they just don't want to be disappointed again because so many other things failed. What would you want to say to somebody who's on the fence, or what's your advice for someone?
Well, I would say I'm a very logical person, and this once I started learning the principles, it made perfect logical sense to me. Just the logic and the info and the science behind it all, and just putting it in practice and seeing it work.
Hmm.
There's nothing else that you need to think of. Just try it. Just do it, and you won't regret it at all.
Yeah, yeah. And for you, would so far you've been in for 3.5 months. Well, actually, you
Mhm.
graduated as well with a handful of other people. It's so cool to see
Yeah.
groups of people, and they're like, it's ready. I'm ready to spread my wings and fly. Even though
Hmm.
it's like sad, kind of leaving behind the community and not being on the calls because it becomes such a routine. You know,
Yeah.
it's almost like that. Yeah, you're ready for that
Mhm.
next chapter in your life. And we're so
Yeah.
happy to see people doing that. And we just had, I think it was 5 or 6 people. They're like,
Mhm.
yeah, we're ready to move on with our
Yeah.
lives. And it's so
Yeah.
cool to see.
Yeah.
But so far, would you say it's been a good investment?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that was the missing piece that I needed, to get me to the next step, because I was stuck for so long. So definitely, it was way worth it. Yeah. And like you said, it's a little bit sad to leave the nest, if you will, but it comes a time where you're done. You're not done, but you're ready to just fly from the nest and live
Yeah.
your life. Yeah,
Yeah.
and this also opens up so many opportunities to expand even more.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, is there anything else you want to share with these folks watching this right now?
I would say just don't give up. And I really do have a lot of compassion for everyone out there who's going through this. I was there. I might not have been bedbound, but I did feel like that was the end of my life. I really did. So I really do have a lot of compassion for everyone out there. Just don't give up. Keep doing the hard work. If you need help, join a program, any program that you resonate with. This happened to be the one that resonated with me. So, and I'm so thankful for that and so grateful. So just keep trying, and don't ever give up. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. Don't ever give up. You never know when that massive change is right around the corner, whether 3 months from now or 6 months from now or a year from now, your life could be totally different, right? I mean, back in January, you were in the ER, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
I'm sure that felt like a different life than the life you have now.
Oh,
Just
it really does. It really does. And I just went to a concert last week. So looking back, that person to the person that went to the concert is just a completely different person.
yeah,
Completely different person. A better person.
yeah. The 2.0 version of Jeanette, and that
No.
2.0 version is still building, which
Right,
is
right. Yeah, I still have some work.
yeah,
That's true. I still have some work to do, but that's fine. That's fine. I got the tools, and it's just applying them and keep living my life.
that's amazing. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here, Jeanette, and sharing some of your story. For you guys watching this right now, and you're inspired by this and taking away some golden nuggets, actually comment down below what was the biggest golden nugget you took away from this? Because you shared a lot of information. Maybe it's even realizing that you're making some of the same mistakes and that now you're going to really try your best to cut those out. But, she's human just like you. I'm human just like you watching this right now. So is everybody who's recovered from CFS, long COVID, vaccine injuries. So if they can do it, you can do it. We didn't have some magic drink or some magical spell. We just followed the principles, and science is science. It's not easy work, as we said. It's a lot of effort, but the effort you put into this, you'll get a whole lot more in return than the effort it takes to stay sick. So, you know, there is a simple solution for this. It's a simple solution, but if you're ready to put in the work, you can get it done. So if you did need some extra help, if you want some more guidance on your journey, we do have several different solutions for people. We have the Recovery Academy as well, which that's where Jeanette was, and that's where we see people coming through all the time, getting their lives back. And so if you wanted some extra help in your journey, you can click the link down below and see if it's a good fit for you. If it is, we'd love to help you on your journey. And always remember, you are a thriver, and you are just one mind shift away from living a life with thriving health. In this case, Jeanette, you already had those mind shifts. So you are pretty much there, living with thriving health and just continuing to optimize. So appreciate your time, Jeanette.
Thanks, Miguel. Appreciate it.
I'd say that CFS recovery is absolutely the real deal.
I actually felt like somebody had an answer, like somebody explained what was going on, and it all clicked.